Alright guys, welcome back to Urge, moving on the subclass series in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything into the next subclass, which is the Path of the Beast Barbarian. So, if you're new to the channel or to the subclass series, what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the abilities gained in this subclass, then we're going to rate it based on its roleplay value, combat value, and overall class synergy, based on how the abilities gained in this subclass improve on the base class abilities.
Indeed.
All that being said, we'll just jump straight into it. Alex, take it away.
All right, so Path of the Beast Barbarian, good job of flavor-wise, kind of telling you up front. It even gives you a D4 of different origins to pick where yours come from. And the first one that reads was the first thing that came to my mind when I heard of this was one of your parents is a lycanthrope and you've inherited some of their curse. That kind of gives you an idea of what this whole thing is based around. So, your first thing, Form of the Beast. When you rage, you get to pick one of 3 different abilities. Bite, you get to have a big giant animal muzzle or a big giant mandible jaws things, whatever, flavor-wise. But as a natural weapon, and it's basically functions as a simple weapon, it deals 1d8 piercing damage on a hit. Once on each of your turns, when you deal damage with this bite, you can regain number of hit points equal to your proficiency bonus, provided you have less than half your hit points when you hit with this weapon. Second choice is Claws. They deal 1d6 slashing damage, and once on each of your turns, when you attack with a claw using the attack action, you can make an additional claw attack. So, as a barbarian, you eventually get extra attack, but if you choose to use your claws as the attack action, one of your 2 attacks, you get, d6 for, kind of the double attack there. And if to maximize your damage, you'd want to use a weapon for the actual
for the second attack.
Right. And finally, you get to pick Tail, which does 1d8 piercing damage on it. It has a reach property of 10 feet, so increased melee range. Oh boy, this part gets fun. Also, if a creature within 10 feet of you hits you with an attack roll, you can use your reaction to swipe your tail and roll a d8 and apply that bonus to your AC.
Ooh.
Equal to the number rolled. That's it. It just uses your reaction. There's no limit. No limit to number of uses. Just give the tanky thing that has all 8,000 health already a way to improve its AC.
Oh, and one thing too before, make sure, specify again, it does include your strength modifier as well. So all these attacks get your strength modifier
Right,
too.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Both, attack and damage, just like normal weapons would for you. Also at level 6, every short or long rest, you get to pick a nice little extra ability here. All for the adventuring side of things. You can either gain swimming speed equal to your walking speed and can breathe underwater, or you can gain a climbing speed equal to your walking speed, which you can climb difficult surfaces, including upside down on ceilings, without needing to make an ability check. Or when you jump, you can make an athletics check to extend your jump by a number of feet equal to the check's total. So, athletics check rolled a 17. You can just jump for 50 plus feet as a barbarian because you can do that. And you can do this special check once per turn. So cool, 3 different choices to pick from there. And also, for your weapons, your natural weapons get to overcome resistances, immunity to non-magical attacks. So your claws, your bite, your tail get to overcome that resistance because that becomes a very common thing for a lot of creatures as you get past the lower levels.
Yes. Then, at level 10, you get Infectious Fury. When you hit a creature with your natural weapons while you are raging, the beast within you carries a curse to your target with a rabid fury. The target must succeed a wisdom saving throw equal to 8 plus your constitution modifier plus your proficiency bonus, or suffer one of the following effects, your choice. First choice is target must use its reaction to make a melee attack against another creature of your choice that you can see, or the target takes 2d12 psychic damage.
Boy.
You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So a nice little way to boost up some damage or, make an enemy burn its reaction hitting an ally, which can always be nice.
Very satisfying.
Then, lastly, at level 14, we have Call the Hunt. When you enter your rage, you choose a number of willing creatures you can see within 30 feet of you equal to your constitution modifier. You gain 5 temporary hit points for each creature that accepts the feature. Until the rage ends, the chosen creatures can use the following benefit once on each of their turns. When the creature hits a target with an attack roll and deals damage to it, the creature can roll a d6 and gain a bonus to the damage equal to the numbered roll. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, regaining all uses on a long rest. So, gain some extra temporary hit points, empower Hunter's Mark basically for all of your allies while you rage. That's kind of crazy. Every turn you're gonna get that extra d6 for all of your people that you can target with your Constitution modifier. But those are all the abilities gained in this subclass. We'll move straight on into the rating portion of the video. First up is the roleplay value. And asterisk, as always, when we talk about the roleplay value, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside of the initiative order where you're interacting.
Right.
So, we're not talking about acting out your class fantasy, history, lore, background. All of that is on you as a player to act out, and we can't rate you as a player. We can only rate what we know from the abilities gained in this subclass. So, all that being said, after going through all the abilities, you probably noticed there's not a whole lot on the RP side of things, other than there's some flavor, but again, flavorful abilities do not necessarily add mechanical bonuses to your RP, and that's what we're more looking on is the mechanical side, the abilities gained, how those impact your roleplay. So, with this, the main thing on here is the Bestial Soul, where you can gain the swim speed, and can breathe underwater, and the climb speed where you can climb on difficult surfaces, or the extra jumping ability as well. And those can be chosen on a short rest. That can be switched. So you don't have to stick with any one. So depending on the environment that you're in, you can shift and switch between whatever these bonuses you want, and those are always with you. And those can be some pretty major things, especially in certain difficult environments with swimming with lots of water or very difficult terrain around you.
If you're in a bunch of caves and you'd be able to climb at will is very, very nice.
So that can actually be pretty beneficial. The rest of it, there's a little bit of flavor stuff going on, but pretty much everything else is dealing with bonuses to your rage.
Right.
So rage is going to be used in combat. You only have so many uses of it. It's kind of hard to try to justify using rage outside of combat when you have so many limited uses of it.
Right.
And most of the uses as well are just going to be dealing combat damage anyways, or increasing your armor class, stuff like that. So there's not really much reason to try to rage outside of combat. But it does kind of, give a little bit of flavor in the beginning at the origin table as well, giving a grand total of 2.5. So with this subclass, very cool, very interesting in the RP side, but again, the actual RP is going to be coming from you as a player, not from the abilities gained in the subclass.
And how you use the flavor that's there.
Right. So, is what it is.
Now the fun part. I mean, this is a barbarian after all, so if you just expect the combat to be on the heavier side.
Barbarians tend to have lower RP scores just because they don't have lots of abilities to work.
Because they're barbarians. They do one thing. They smash. And they do it well. So, with starting at level 3, you get not 1, not 2, but 3 different natural weapon choices. One of which will let you heal yourself if you are, below half. One will let you, take 2 attack action, the 2 attacks early on. So, because it's 2 different attacks, you get to add your strength modifier to each, so it's actually a little bit better of a damage bump early on to be able to do that, so you can really not even carry a weapon.
Yeah.
As long as you're raging, at least. You carry your weapon when you're not raging if you just have to get in trouble that way.
Right.
But that's the option. And the tail, while not a ton of damage and only a D8, does have reach if you do it in a weird situation where you're just out of reach of a melee situation where you can hit somebody with the tail. But the AC sucker, adding a D8 to your AC to the only class that has a D12 hit die that has more health than everyone sometimes put together in your party, your party makeup, just makes it just super, super, survivable. That's a huge extra bump. And the fact there's no limit to it, it just takes a reaction every turn to use.
Yeah.
Even the Bestial Soul, if you get into combat in certain environments, being able to swim and breathe underwater could be helpful. If you get stranded on a ship and big sea monsters stranded your ship, you can still move around and do things like normal. Or if you're trying to fight these spiders that are climbing up these big cave walls, everybody else have to use throwing weapons if they're not casters. Just I'm going to get you. Just grab the side. And even if you take this, the super jump thing, you can cover a ton of ground even in combat. So run and take this huge leap, you can cover more ground than just running normally with that extra bonus. Infectious Fury, the fact again, And this is something that when I read this ability, I immediately just lit up with a smile of yes, they did not print an ability that has a super niche only use. That's probably the biggest complaint I make about abilities and other subclasses that we've done in the past, and I'm sure we'll find some in this book too. I'd be shocked at least if we didn't. Is that that some abilities can be really, really cool, but they're only good in that specific situation, and outside of that, they become completely useless. Because this gives you two options, it's always valid. So they're either going to take 2 extra damage. Psychic damage is probably the least resisted damage type, so it's helpful making sure you maximize it. But I pray I get to find more things in combat that try to fight me 2v1 in situations where I can make him hit each other. And most importantly, besides that extra damage, is it forces it to use its reaction. So then it can't opportunity attack you if you want to maneuver yourself to go help your wizard friend that's being swarmed by somebody else. You used your reaction to hit him. I'm going to run over here now. And you can't do anything about it. That's really, really neat. And again, like with the other common theme, it's based on your proficiency bonus, number of uses you get, instead of your modifier. Eventually, that's going to have a higher cap. Your proficiency bonus caps out at 6. Naturally, without any crazy magic items, your modifiers don't cap out at 5. And then finally, this is the kind of ult I love, and again, I think it's going to be more common in this book too, that we both like, is built-in party synergy. Being able to not only help yourself, but help your party as well, because in most other cases, you got to cast a group spell to be able to help the party in some way. So you're giving yourself temporary hit points equal to the number of people, so it encourages you to strategize and help more of your party, because it helps you more. And you're giving everybody just the damage buff of a hex or a hunter's mark. Well, as long as you get to keep your rage, once per turn they get an extra d6 to damage. D6 is not much, but if you hit 4 or 5 people with that,
and if you're having multiple long rounds of combat, it's every turn. It's just
that sucker adds up over time. That adds up in a hurry. So we gave this a 4.5 out of a possible 5. Very, very interesting flavor, and again, the most important thing to me when reviewing some of these subclasses is this definitely feels unique. Definitely sticks out as something that it's definitely still a barbarian, but it definitely feels completely different than all the rest of the barbarian subclasses.
I think the only thing maybe holding it back is the limited uses on the 2 higher level abilities. If those had no limited use, this would be easily.
Well, they have to limit that one at 14. I mean, it's
but being able to get that D8 every turn potentially when you get hit. I mean, you just. Well, I don't want to get it too ahead of myself because I'm making note of this in the synergy side, which we'll just segue straight on into that.
Why not? Look how we did that.
Wow. So I can now say my comment I wanted to before I forget.
What a segue.
With the tail attack on here, using your reaction, getting that D8, applying to your AC, that's going to be something that is going to completely change combat. Just because you're going to have all of these uses every single turn, essentially. And why is this going to happen so often? Because you have something called reckless attack. So you want them to hit you, or you get your advantage on all of these attacks you're getting. If you are getting your extra attack with the reckless attack, and then they hit you. Well, what says when they hit you with an attack roll, you get to roll a d8. So maybe they don't get to hit you. So
not anymore.
So now you're getting to get extra. You don't have to worry. I mean, you didn't really worry too much as a barbarian reckless attacking anyway
because you have all
so
that health. But now you really don't care.
Also,
number of crafts given becomes 0.
You're gaining that extra temporary HP. So more reason to not worry about reckless attack.
Yeah.
So this is going to be something that's going to let you you're not really too worried about reckless attacking anyways. This is going to give you even more reason. You're like, I got 10 HP coming out. I got extra D8 of AC I can add on. I got even more health than I normally do. We're reckless attacking every single turn. I don't even care.
Yep.
So that is huge.
Unarmored defense with barbarian, it's 10 plus your con plus your dex. So you're talking about 15, maybe 17 or 18 AC, maybe by the end game. So it's a decent AC, but not super high. But if you're adding an extra 4 to that, 4 to 5, average D8's a 4 or a 5.
Right.
21, 22 AC is pretty high.
Right.
I mean,
technically wearing armor.
a heavy armor and shield sometimes can't get that high of an AC.
Yes. And then the other thing to mention too, being a barbarian, your biggest thing that you can do is rage. Yep. So you rage, and you get a bonus at level 3, you get to pick one of these 3
Extra cool weapons.
extra abilities. You get your infectious attack that you can also increase more damage or make something use the bonus reaction and hit something else.
Yep, love
Which
that.
is also with your rage. And then also, like we mentioned already, the temporary HP stuff coming in with your rage as well. So you have major synergies with rage, major synergies with reckless attack, which are, I mean, that's what Barbarian is. Reckless attacking and raging. That's who you are. Those are your main features of the class, I would say.
Yep.
So we went ahead and gave it a 4.5 out of 5 on the synergy as well, just because Barbarian doesn't do a whole lot, but what it does do, it does well, and this really focuses on making that even better.
And with all these subclasses, we like to take Tasha's quote to kind of give you guys another thought onto, because they're really neat little quote for each of these subclasses from Tasha. And she says about the Path of the Beast, you have to respect anyone who lets their inner beast out for a brisk jog and a healthy throat ripping.
Yes, love it. And one last thing I wanted to mention before I forget as well is if you really wanted to go crazy with your rage, you go claws, you get the extra claw attacks. Well, go ahead and take a long tooth shifter race, and then you get a bonus action claw attack as well. So then you go claw attack, and then long sword, and then you go bonus action claw attack, and you get to add strength mod to all
and that rage damage to all those attacks.
So it's gonna be fun time. And
Barbarians.
very thematic as well. It goes with it. And so that's what it is. So that's gonna wrap it up for this one, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications to know when our new videos are coming out and when we have the next giveaway coming. So you'll be prepared when that does happen and be ahead of the curve on there. But really cool, fun, interesting subclass on here. Let us know in the comments down below what you think about this subclass, what you want to see from Tasha's. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.